The history of organized firefighting began in ancient Rome while under the rule of Augustus. One prior to that, there is evidence of firefighting machinery in use in ancient Egypt, including a water pump invented by Ctesibius of Alexandria in the 3rd century BC, which was later improved upon in a design by Hero of Alexandria in the 1st century BC. 2. Rome. The first ever Roman fire brigade of which we have any substantial history was created by Marcus Licinius Crassus. Marcus Licinius Crassus was born into a wealthy Roman family around the year 115 BC, and acquired an enormous fortune through, in the words of Plutarch, fire and rapine. One of his most lucrative schemes took advantage of the fact that Rome had no fire department. Crassus filled this void by creating his own brigade, 500 men strong, which rushed to burning buildings at the first cry of alarm. Upon arriving at the scene, however, the firefighters did nothing while their employer bargained over the price of their services with the distressed property owner. If Crassus could not negotiate a satisfactory price, his men simply let the structure burn to the ground, after which he offered to purchase it for a fraction of its value. Emperor Nero took the basic idea from Crassus and then built on it to form the Brigades in AD 60 to combat fires using bucket brigades and pumps, as well as poles, hooks and even ballistae to tear down buildings in advance of the flames. The Brigades patrolled the streets of Rome to watch for fires and served as a police force. The later brigades consisted of hundreds of men, all ready for action. When there was a fire, the men would line up to the nearest water source and pass buckets hand in hand to the fire. Rome suffered a number of serious fires, most notably the fire on July 19 AD 64, which eventually destroyed 2/3 of Rome. Europe. In Europe, firefighting was quite rudimentary until the 17th century. In 1254, a royal decree of King St. Louis of France created the so-called bourgeois burgess watch, allowing the residents of Paris to establish their own night watches, separate from the king's night watches, to prevent and stop crimes and fires. After the 100 Years' War, the population of Paris expanded again, and the city, much larger than any other city in Europe at the time, was the scene of several great fires in the 16th century. As a consequence, King Charles IX disbanded the residents' night watches and left the king's watches as the only one responsible for checking crimes and fires. London suffered great fires in 798, 982, 989, 1212 and above all in 1666, the Great Fire of London. The Great Fire of 1666 started in a baker's shop on Pudding Lane, consumed about 2 square miles 5 kilometers of the city, leaving tens of thousands homeless. Prior to this fire, London had no organized fire protection system. Afterwards, insurance companies formed private fire brigades to protect their clients' property. Insurance brigades would only fight fires at buildings the company insured. These buildings were identified by fire insurance marks. The key breakthrough in firefighting arrived in the 17th century with the first fire engines. Manual pumps, rediscovered in Europe after 1500, allegedly used in Augsburg in 1518 and in Nuremberg in 1657. Were only force pumps and had a very short range due to the lack of hoses. German inventor Hans Hauch improved the manual pump by creating the first suction and force pump and adding some flexible hoses to the pump. In 1672, Dutch artist and inventor Jan van der Hayden's workshop developed the fire hose. Constructed of flexible leather and coupled every 50 feet 15 m with brass fittings. The length remains a standard to this day in mainland Europe, whilst in the UK the standard length is either 23 meters or 25 m. The fire engine was further developed by the Dutch inventor, merchant and manufacturer, John Lofting 1659–1742, who had worked with Jan van der Heyden in Amsterdam. Lofting moved to London in or about 1688, became an English citizen and patented patent number 263/1690, the sucking worm engine, in 1690. There was a glowing description of the firefighting ability of his device in the London Gazette of March 17, 1691, after the issue of the patent. The British Museum has a print showing Lofting's fire engine at work in London, the engine being pumped by a team of men. In the print, 3 fire plaques of early insurance companies are shown, no doubt indicating that Lofting collaborated with them in firefighting. A later version of what is believed to be one of his fire engines has been lovingly restored by a retired firefighter, and is on show in Marlow, Buckinghamshire, where John Lofting moved in 1700. Patents only lasted for 14 years, and so the field was open for his competitors after 1704. Richard Newsham of Bray in Berkshire, just 8 miles from Lofting, produced and patented an improved engine in 1721, Royal Patent Office 1721, patent number 439, and 1725, patent number 479, and soon dominated the fire engine market in England. Pulled as a cart to the fire, these manual pumps were manned by teams of 4 to 12 men and could deliver up to 160 gallons per minute, 12 liters per second, at up to 120 feet 36 m. Newsham himself died in 1743, but his company continued making fire engines under other managers and names into the 1770s. The next major development in fire engine design in England was made by Hadley, Simkin and Lotco in 1792, with a larger and much improved style of hand-pumped engine which could be pulled to a fire by horses. United States, in 1631, Boston's Governor John Winthrop outlawed wooden chimneys and thatched roofs. 3. In 1648, the new Amsterdam Governor Peter Stuyvesant appointed 4 men to act as fire wardens. 3. They were empowered to inspect all chimneys and to fine any violators of the rules. The city burghers later appointed 8 prominent citizens to the Rattle Watch. These men volunteered to patrol the streets at night carrying large wooden rattles. 3. If a fire was seen, the men spun the rattles, then directed the responding citizens to form bucket brigades. On January 27, 1678, the first fire engine company went into service with its captain foreman Thomas Atkins. 3. In 1736, Benjamin Franklin established the Union Fire Company in Philadelphia. 3. The United States did not have government-run fire departments until around the time of the American Civil War. Prior to this time, private fire brigades competed with one another to be the first to respond to a fire because insurance companies paid brigades to save buildings. 4. Underwriters also employed their own salvage corps in some cities. The first known female firefighter, Molly Williams, took her place with the men on the dry ropes during the blizzard of 1818 and pulled the pumper to the fire through the deep snow. On April 1 of 1853, Cincinnati, Ohio featured the first professional fire department made up of 100% full-time employees. In 2015, 70% of firefighters in the United States were volunteer. Only 4% of calls were actual fires. 64% were medical aid. 8% were false alarms.